Good you're here actually. For one thing, it's Who time, but since I'm in the kitchen, now would be a good time to show you how to disassemble Doctor Who 5-inch figures, and also show you how to do the boil and pop technique that I've mentioned in dozens of other videos. Interested in hearing more of these tips? Then stick around. So we're going to kick off with the boil and pop technique, as that takes you most of the way in disassembling your Doctor Who 5-inch figures. First things first, let's fill up the kettle. Then you need to switch on your kettle to boil as you would for a brew. And whilst that's boiling, you need to grab a container that can withstand boiling water and has enough space for your figures to go in. I personally use this glass oven dish, as I know it meets those criteria. Obviously, I recommend that you place your container on something to protect the surface, like a chopping board or on the stove. If you're using a metal container, please be aware this does conduct a lot of heat, so you might hurt yourself on it, or it may damage the surface you put it on. If you're going for plastic, please be careful, because not all plastics can take boiling water. Some of them just disintegrate and then the water goes everywhere. I would advise going for something that's microwavable. It's probably a bit stronger, but obviously a bit bigger than this. Right, also if you're a young one, please use adult assistance or supervision. Don't want you to hurt yourself. Right, that's enough of the safety advice. Let's get on. So grab your figures of choice. I've got a selection here. I'll show you how they're constructed. Obviously, there's great variation in how these figures are put together, especially amongst the monsters like the Cybermen and the Sontarans. This video will be a sufficient guide so you know roughly what to expect. So here, let's start with the 7th Doctor, since he's a good example of the basic structure of 5-inch Doctor Who figures. The kettle will have boiled by now, so let's grab that. So you pour in the boiling water carefully so it doesn't splash everywhere and scald you. Alright, let's pop him in. Then leave him to sit there for a few minutes. Then use something that you can get him out with, like a spatula, and pop him onto the tea towel. Right, give him a shake, and then you can start to disassemble the figure. You'll notice that the plastic has become softer and a bit more pliable, so you can pop off the head, the hands, the arms, like so, and the legs, like this. There we go, totally dismembered. It will also allow you to open up the jacket. Now that looks very easy, but it can be quite hard because the glue can be quite tough, so you may need the help of a Stanley knife, like so, just to cut around this peg to ease it out. But this one's still quite stuck, so I need to use this. Also, it will allow you to remove the waistcoat, as this will become a lot more pliable as well. If you're wondering about dismantling the elbow and the knee joints, those are basically not removable without severely damaging the joints. Those are pegged in to last, really. As for removing the legs from the waist down, that's a different story. The boil and pop technique won't help you to separate the torso section from the legs from the waist down, so we'll come back to that. But first, I'd like to show you some of the variations in how the figures across the range are put together, so you know what to look out for. So first, starting off with the heads, on these guys, the head simply just plugs onto the torso. So as we saw earlier with the 7th Doctor, his head pops off, he's got a peg there. The same with the 6th. There you go. And also the 4th Doctor. Oh. Unfortunately, not all the figures have this lovely peg that you can just plonk the head on. Alternatively, the head can be locked into the torso by a circular disc, and that's the case here with the 3rd, 5th and 10th Doctors. It's a bit unfortunate. Here's a few photos from earlier of the 10th Doctor's head having been removed from the spacesuit. As you can see, the head is slightly elongated. It has a sort of slightly extra narrow bit of neck with a disc at the base of it. You can see this is where it goes in. You can see there's a hole, and then beneath that is where there would be this very strong plastic circular disc holding it in. So to actually get the head out, you'll need to open up the torso, which I'll come back to momentarily. There can be variation in the hands as well. Using the Tomb and Invasion Cybermen as examples, we can see on the Tomb Cyberman, he has a peg on his hand and then a hole in his wrist. And then alternatively, in the Invasion Cyberman, we can see that there's a peg on the wrist and then a hole in his hand. There's variation in the arm joints as well. Some of them are ball jointed, so you can move the arms up like so on this butchered Capaldi. I used him for a regenerated 12th Doctor custom. You can see that in another video. But yeah, you can see there's a ball joint there. But most figures, to be honest, aren't like that. They have just a standard up and then down. I should just add, if you want to take the arms out, you're going to have to open up the torso. Now I will get to that, I promise. So some figures do have foot articulation, like this Martha Jones here, and also this Tombstone Man. So in both these cases, you can remove the feet. You can use the ball and pop technique to take those off. Alternatively, some figures don't have this option and the feet aren't movable, like this 4th Doctor here. It's just part of the sculpt. Same with the 6th Doctor as well. Still, there are many more unique variations to figures. Unsurprisingly, they mostly come with the monsters. But not always, and it would take me forever to go through them all. But just to do a few examples, let's take the Pertwee for example, starting with him. This frilly piece with the bow tie is in fact a separate piece. Now I don't want to destroy this one, so I'm using a photo from earlier to demonstrate, as I don't have a spare knocking about. Also you can see that his jacket just joins at the buttons and doesn't have those two bits that peg into the torso, like the 7th Doctor, 4th Doctor, or the Capaldi figure for instance. Cybermen uniquely have their chest units. Now these can either be pegged in, like the Invasion or Tomb Cybermen. Even between those two, they're very differently pegged in. Or they can be not pegged in and they're just held in by the plugged in head. In the case of the Earthshock and Attack Cybermen, and the Silver Nemesis Cybermen as well. In the case of the Vashta Nerada, the helmet and collar piece are separate bits that come off. Now I've already pre-boiled and popped this and used a standing knife, so it's not as easy as it will look as I take it off. But here's the helmet that comes off, that's one thing. Then the collar is a separate piece as well. And you can see that there's a peg at the front here and a dip at the back, and this all locks on. As for the Sontarans, they uniquely have elbow and knee pads, obviously unlike other figures, and these easily pop off if you want them to, just using the ball and pop technique. Right, last but not least, I've kept you waiting long enough. Leaving the ball and pop technique behind, if you want to disassemble the torso from the legs, you're going to need to split the torso open with a standing knife and pliers. I'm going to use this 7th Doctor to demonstrate and also chip in with this Capaldi I have left over as well. So have a look at this, just to make it easy. I'll take this off. There we go. As you can see, you've got the pegs that go into the torso. You need to get those out, obviously, using the ball and pop technique. But then you need to open up the sides. Now on this one, I actually used a drill to make it a lot easier for myself because I didn't plan to use this 7th Doctor for any customing. But if you want to do it neatly, you simply take, I'll move this arm out of the way. You simply take your standing knife and gently press it between the seams of the front and back halves of the torso. So you do it on one side, you lever it a bit, you do it on the other side as well. And keep doing that until you can lever it open enough to get your pliers in. Once you've got your pliers in, you can basically split open the two halves. Hopefully I can do this with this one. There we go. Oh, and there you go. Split this open. So you can see there's this separate piece with a disc that holds the head in place. You can see the circular discs holding the arms in place within the torso as well. It sits in there. So once you've done that, that pops off. The legs pop out of their section as well, which are held in there nicely. So once you pop that off, you've got the legs. Nice. Now if you want to make it easy for yourself, you can remove the entire coat of your figure, just pulling it down the arms, like so. Using the Capaldi here. There we go. Like that. And then just gently prise it open on both sides. On the inside, and out it comes. Ooh. And that's the look on the inside of a Capaldi. Again, I'm just moving the waistcoat here. It's got the piece there and the two arms of the circular discs. If you want to reassemble the two halves of the torso, you can, making sure to put the glue in these holes here, and not anywhere else. You can pop that in, you can put the legs back in, making sure the discs of the arms and the headpiece and the legs, which is quite difficult. It's quite difficult to do, but it will slot back into place if you can get it just so. There we go. It's back on. Same with Capaldi, you've got these holes here, you put the glue in there. Put the arms comes back in where they're supposed to be held in place, and then you pop this back on. There you go, back on. And that's your lot for today. I'll try and do some further videos on disassembling Daleks, because they're a different kettle of fish. Also, I'll do a video on how to use milliput as well. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. Also, go and follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @WhoTimeUK. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.